comply with the civil service law and comply with the ordinance. So, my motion stands, and I guess we have to have a vote.
So explain to me the pros and cons.
Well, I think that you don't know what's in my letter. And I
No,
think before you vote to make it public, which is basically what you're saying, because once you waive that privilege, it's waived. I mean, it's done. You can't unwaive it. And I really think you ought to take a look at it if that's what you want to do in closed session prior to making it public.
Do you have that letter with you now?
I don't have it with me, no.
Does personnel have a copy of that letter?
I don't, maybe, I'm not certain.
Can you call personnel and see if they have a copy of the letter, please? I believe they have a copy of the letter. If they do have a copy of the letter, I will move to go into closed session now, as we can do under the Open Public Meetings Act. When something like this comes up, you can tell us what it says, and then we can vote one way or the other.
Okay.
Is it the letter that was in the email?
I think it was a letter directed to the mayor, may have been copied to you and him. Sent about a week ago, Monday.
You know what? It's easy enough to find out.
Are we making a phone call?
I'll make a phone call.
She is.
I think I might have it. I'm trying to search my email.
All right, Pam, do you have a letter from Brock concerning the legal advice given to the mayor? We're in a discussion about it. Could you please bring it up? Thank you. She has it. Do you have it on there? Then I can move to go into closed session.
I have a resolution. It's not a letter.
Pam's bringing a letter up.
Yeah, that's the resolution. That's not it. That's not it.
Is there a way for me to delay this motion until the letter gets here, and then I can talk about something else for a minute?
I think we can.
All right, so anyway, the library sprinkler system has been installed and is now operational. They were reluctant to make a live test, so we didn't do that, but they did test it, make sure it was working. I'll get to the brush and the other collection stuff during the regular meeting. And that's all I have for now.
Commissioner Perry.
Did you want, I'm sorry, Mayor, does he
Well,
want
have
to do
the engineer's
engineering
report.
so they can
You can.
leave?
You
That way
can.
they don't get stuck here. Hey, Wayne.
Well,
Hi, Commissioner. Thank you for letting me update you on the plant, the wastewater plant and the Phase 2 construction project. I have the latest laboratory testing results from the plant. The plant is meeting all compliance limits from the DEP. Well, we're having some fluctuations in the pH through the treatment system. We're monitoring, trying to make adjustments to make sure we don't fall below 6, which is our limit. That's one thing we're trying to keep an eye on. We really don't have a lot of control over the pH, but we're trying our best to make sure we don't, get out of compliance. As far as the Phase 2 project, we had a major training of the new Trojan ultraviolet system. We have all the employees' names that were trained. We have the training booklet. I made copies for the commissioners if you'd like to see the information. It's very informative. I can hand those out to you later.
Hey, Wayne, can you make it available on email? Can you make
Sure.
it a PDF
Yeah.
and it's emailed to us?
Yeah, I can email you the booklet, yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'll email all the commission the booklet.
You have that paper copy's the only paper copy.
No, I have enough for everybody today.
I'll take I like paper, sorry.
I'll take a paper too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, me too.
we're old school.
okay. Let me grab
Thank
the
you.
rest of them.
I'm saving the trees.
It's smarter, and it is smarter, I just,
You're not saving him if he's already done it.
yeah,
I know, you're not saving this, it's really critical. Actually, the vendor has made these copies, they were extra, so.
But the other way, I have access constantly.
Right, because then you lose your file. That's how I feel about it. You can always go back and find it.
Thank you, Wayne.
Though I tend to like to print and read.
It makes a lot of sense out of a lot of the confusing terminology that they can hear a lot about the UV system. Today we started the performance testing on the Trojan ultraviolet system. The performance testing consists of pulling samples, 3 sets of samples for pre-UV fecal coliform after the system, UVT for the system to see where transmittance is at, and total suspended solids. We did that all day today for an 8-hour period. We shut the Trojan system off for the remainder of the day because we don't know what the test results will be, but the manufacturer is guaranteeing that we'll meet our permit limit. So we have 5 days of performance testing. Once we get through that period and we have confidence that we're meeting all our limits, we'll put the Trojan system online, permanently, and we'll start to take the pilot system, offline, and that'll make a substantial improvement to the plant. This coming Wednesday, we're also going to be starting up the south secondary clarifier. Right now, we're filling it with recycled water to do performance testing on that. I have some photos of the clarifier so you can see all the improvements that were made and what it looks like, with the effluent water in it. And here's a view of the weirs with our effluent going through the weirs. Now, it looks kind of dark in color because there's a lot of dissolved solids in our effluent yet, but once the disc filters are in place, that'll be cleaned up. So here's the pictures if you want to pass them around. That's a picture of Sal pulling a sample. Also, I believe I have a plan that I brought forward. I made each of the commissioners a copy of a plan. That's the Kruger disc filter system. And if you recall, the last meeting we discussed how we again hit the 1908 tank at one depth and then the chlorine contact tanks at another. So we had to change direction and not spend another $40,000 to $50,000 on removing concrete in order to put pipe in the ground. So we redesigned a distribution box for the disc filter feed system, and we're constructing that right now. What that does is it gets the piping up out of the ground as soon as possible, so we don't have to waste money, tearing out concrete from 1908. So we're working on that right now. I have a brief update of plant construction. A lot of the things we may have talked about already. There's a 10-inch drain line from the solids handling building that's been pressure tested. The installation's complete up to the grit chamber. The Trojan UV we're training. We trained the employees. We're doing the performance testing. There's been painting in the solids handling building. 3 of the rooms are complete. We're doing we did flow testing on the UV channels, and we adjusted the stainless steel weirs to get the flow equalized across the weirs. So it's within 50 gallons on each side now, so it's pretty close. We're going to be doing that on the south secondary clarifier, flowing it up to the level of the weirs, then adjusting all the weirs prior to putting that online also. And we filled all day today, so tomorrow morning that should be up to the level of the weirs. The Ovivo South Secondary Clarifier, they did another true plane inspection, which is they rotate the equipment, and prior to some adjustments, there was like an 1/8 or 3/16 in one direction. It was 0 deviations, so Ovivo was very happy with the installation. For the coming months, we're going to be, putting the South Secondary Clarifier online and then taking the North Clarifier offline and starting the replacement of all those mechanicals. Working on the yard piping between the disc filter and the UV channel and the clarifiers. Trying to work towards getting the Kruger disc filters in and getting up to speed on starting the primary clarifier reconstruction. Now, I have a spreadsheet, and I also been speaking with Marcy about, I promised the commission I would get into the numbers to make sure we didn't spend more money than was in the bond. I added the south primary clarifier cost of $348,000 on here, and I'm asking, commission for consideration in replacing the mechanicals in that tank. Right now, we're rebuilding the north and south secondary clarifiers and the north primary clarifier. That leaves us with one clarifier that will be 25 years old. If we do that clarifier as part of this project, all the tanks would be good for the next 25 years. If we don't do it now, I I guess the downside would be that we'd have to mobilize a new contractor to come in. It would probably be a different contractor, and we may not get the same value for our money. So we're asking for, your approval to move forward with that change directive to the construction project.
There's enough money?
There's $42,000 left in the hard costs and $500,000 left in soft costs. And normal bond, I can move from soft costs to hard costs without from hard to soft. Now, since this is an NJEIT
Project.
funded, if they're okay with it, that's how much money I have, $542,000.
And you also did something to save on those soft costs with the other engineering company, correct?
Right now, we're not authorizing AECOM to do any additional engineering beyond their original contract. We would have to pay them to do shop drawing and design on the primary clarifiers. We're doing that in-house ourselves to save enough money to be able to move forward with this. Also, we're resolving the issues with the disc filter foundation piping and the distribution box layout and construction. We're doing that in-house too, so to not have to go back to them to spend money for engineering and paper when we could spend it on hard construction in the field. So we're, making those efforts.
So how much is the change order? I'm confused.
For the south primary clarifiers, $348,000.
As long as
So
NGA,
that,
How
but
much is
that's
the second
increased.
change order? Is that added into that?
So it's
or-
adding on top of what we budgeted,
We're-
$300,000?
So far, we exceeded the contract by $108,000 in changes to date.
So you want to change it by another $300,000?
And that'll allow us to rebuild that south primary clarifier.
But then we're over, and what did we say we were going, so then we would be over what we were going,
no, because it's going to come out of the soft cost.
and how much did you
Providing
save in the
NGIT
soft
approves.
costs? You saved $500,000 in the soft costs?
Well, we don't know.
Well, soft cost also includes marine that's charged,
Okay, so how much extra do you have in there, do you know?
$500,000.
No, but you're going to use some of that because Wayne's still going to be working.
Well, his contract, unless he's going to amend his contract, I already have that encumbered. The $500,000 is over and above what I have encumbered for his contract, ACOM, and work.
So we would be requesting from NGIT to move,
I'm not quite sure how that process works, because in a regular bond, I have that authority to do that. I just want to make sure if NJDIT is okay with it, I have $542,000 available.
and you're requesting how much to,
The 348 to pay for the south primary clarifier.
all
Is-
coming out of that?
We also
Is the
Right.
second change order charged yet? I know we have the first by resolution, but the second change order,
So
is that charged yet?
The second change order is shown in there as change directive number 2.
Right, but the
The
first
blue.
change order was how much that we did the resolution? for?
108, he
Well,
said.
together they're 108,000.
Oh,
both of
together
them.
they're 108.
Yeah,
You don't have some of it charged yet,
Yeah.
so that's part of it.
I have whatever resolution was adopted.
yeah.
Yeah, the first resolution wasn't that high, was it?
So we could give you a consensus if we want to do that, and then it would all depend on what NGIT said.
I don't understand it enough yet.
The NJEIT guy usually attends all his meetings on the progress of the work. So if they're okay with it, I mean, my job is to say how much money I have. I have $500,000 in soft costs, $42,000 in hard costs. I'm not quite sure what changes are gonna come down the pike. I always like to leave myself $100,000. So even with this 340, looks like to me I should have enough money. If he says he's not gonna use ACOM anymore, and his contract is not gonna go up any substantial amount of money, then that's
But-
what I have available.
But there's a $108,000 change order that encompasses 1 and 2, but our resolution only is 1.
Well, I did whatever resolution we adopted is shown in the contract.
When do you,
So,
how long before you
um,
need a decision?
Oh, we don't have to have a decision tonight. I just wanted to bring
But I'm
it
confu-
forward to the commission.
So we have time to look into
Yeah,
it?
we have a week or two, to look into it.
We already have $108,000.
108,000 above the
Change order.
contract so far.
And then you're going to add another 348, so that equals 448,000
Right.
over total.
Right.
And did we approve the 108 so
Yes.
far?
No,
We-
we don't, he's
he's saying
approved it, but
yes.
not by resolution. She only charges by resolution, and the resolution that we did was only change order number 1. Change order number 2 hasn't been done.
How
by
much
Well,
was
but
change
change
order
order-
number 1 for?
He doesn't know.
Well, you should have the resolution, right? So it's a
Seven-
million there.
It was
Yeah.
$70,000 change.
Okay,
order
so then
number one.
number 2 would be 58.
Yeah, it was a little higher.
Okay,
than
well,
that.
that's it. 70 and 58. So you have the 58,000 for that.
The total was 108
Where's the
between the two.
348
Yeah.
coming from?
That's an additional.
Okay.
So 348 and 50.
Don't you have to change the contract with the state because it's over 20%?
Yeah, does that put you, you're gonna have a total
I don't
change
think
order,
that's over 20%. It's a $9 million contract, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
was
it's
it
a big
7
contract.
million? I thought we
We're
got
seven
it
either
down.
way, we're still good.
7 million.
700,000.
Hmm?
Only 700,000, I can't believe that's just. so
We're not over 20%, right?
20% is
Need to
7
clarify.
million?
No.
No, that's what I
Okay.
thought.
So
I mean, I would-
altogether, it'll be 448,000 for
Yeah,
the change
I mean, I'd
orders.
strongly recommend that we try and do that with this project, to not have, one component of the plant, in a condition that's kind of obsolete. And we'd have to go back in if it breaks down and somehow, mobilize another contractor to come in, go through fabrication.
But what you're saying, even if you do these change orders, we're still gonna come in on the budget that we allotted because of what you're saving in the soft costs.
Right now, I'm trying to stick to the direction the commission gave me, not to go over that bond amount,
Okay,
to
that's
stay
what
within that bond,
I was asking. So you're still able to do that
to not
even,
go over that amount.
even with the 400,000 in
Right.
change orders because of what you saved?
Now, there is only one little area we have to be careful at, the primary wet well at the plant. We were gonna replace the whole wet well, and that didn't make good sense, because we know the wet well's too small, it's undersized. So we took that work out of the contract to, make monies available for other things. Well, the only thing we have left to do that could potentially be a little extra would be to, resaturate the wall surface and to seal that surface of the wet well. That would be a little bit extra, but it's not gonna be anything earth-shattering like, the clarifier cost.
And what's a little bit extra in your
Well,
world?
the worst case scenario we have from the contractor was like $100,000.
That's
But
a
we're
little-
not gonna we're gonna cut it back from that.
It's funny,
That's if you,
a little
that's
bit
if
in
you,
my world
that's
is,
if you replace the undersized, it would be $100,000, correct?
That would be to, spend a month in there working on the wet well. We're not gonna do that. That wouldn't make good sense to. In the past, I don't know if you recall, but there was a leak in the primary wet well discovered by the plant personnel. And, they proceeded in the best way they could, but they didn't have any, they didn't have a contractor there, a professional contractor, or any engineering guidance. On their own, they just tried to pump grout into the bottom, and it didn't do anything. There's a chance when we start bypass pumping and dewatering, that leak may not even be there anymore, the way things could seal up. So we need to look into that. If there is a leak, we're going to grout inject, apply like a resurfacing agent to the walls, and put a coating on it, and seal it up and put it back online. Knowing that in the future we're going to have to build a new wet well and a new main lift station, so it doesn't make a lot of sense to spend good money reconstructing something that's.
And there is another phase of this project after this one anyway.
There is another phase after this.
So if you just refinish that and stuff, instead of spending out $100,000, what do you have a rough idea? I guess the question.
I mean, I'm thinking like 20 to 40,000 at the most. But, I wouldn't recommend that we spend a lot of money on this wet well. If it wasn't for the leak, I wouldn't even go in there. But we can't say, how bad the leak is right now until we get in there and check it. But after seeing how we solved the leaks on the south secondary clarifier, we have a good idea of what to do, in the wet well. Injecting the grout, pressure injection. It's like 3,000 psi injection into the cracks.
Can I? I'm sorry. I just wanted to make a suggestion that like everybody take a week to look this over, and get any questions you have answered, and if you could send us an email, and then you'd get a poll. And
Okay.
Not we wouldn't reply together, but we reply individually to you.
Okay.
If that's all right with you guys, you folks. What do you think? That way you have a chance.
I have a
to ask
scope of work I
Marcy,
could
you
send
feel
you about
comfortable?
the wet well. I just want to keep it as minimal as possible, just to make sure it's not leaking.
There's a problem, that, I'm gonna have money, but he knows, he's there and monitoring the work. And he's confident that if he does this job, he's not gonna need any more money, then who am I,
you can't take any official action, but it doesn't sound
No,
like you're doing that.
No, I understand that. I was just asking, making sure Marcy felt comfortable
Yeah.
money-wise with the budget.
What
And-
is what it is.
And I mean, technically, this is something that he could do on his own even without
That's what I
informing
mean.
us, you know
It is
I
what
mean?
it is. It's not something that requires a resolution by the board. At
But he
this
is
point,
asking our
at
opinion.
this point. Now, maybe in
If
the
it's over
future.
5%, a change order
Yeah.
requires a resolution.
Well, that's what I mean. If you do get to the point where you're over 5%, then you are gonna need to.
Well, I
have
think
it.
with the 348, we might be over 5%.
Yeah, I think you're
Well,
just over
let's
that.
find out if we
Yeah.
are or not, for sure.
It's gonna be close.
Yeah.
So Brock, would it be advantageous to the commission to wait
Times
a little further?
Yeah, I
or-
think Mr. Johnson's okay with that too, aren't you, Wayne? You're okay?
Yeah, we're okay with
Is
that.
that okay, Wayne?
We're over.
He doesn't want a decision tonight.
No, I just wanted to let you know, I went through the numbers with Marcy and, you know, I got excited saying, wow, we can do this tank, we're close. So, you know, I wanna do the right thing for the
So
plant and the
please,
city.
The three-
Still have
It'd
a
be like having a
348
car.
is
It's
how
not-
much-
it's not $100,000 to spare.
348 is close to
Each-
the 5%.
Each
Well,
change order
348
5%.
added to 108, which make it 448. You
Or
can't
is that
do
two
it.
separate, you can't do, like,
You've
we
gotta
already did two
aggregate.
change orders, is what I'm getting at.
Are you saying is it
The
5?
engineer, this is a city ordinance rule. The engineer has a right to do change orders up to 5%
Right.
without the resolution. Over 5%, they need a resolution.
I see.
So
He would
if
just
put
need a
that in as a separate
resolution.
change order, he wouldn't even need a resolution.
No, because it's total, isn't it total? It's not
It's
each
not an
side.
aggregate,
So
is
it's
it?
108
Because we do
and
change orders
348.
all the time. I'm just
Is that what you're
curious.
saying?
Doesn't say an aggregate, does it?
Right, right, Mayor.
So that's
So if
356.
he broke everything piecemeal, he would never go over 5%.
I mean,
Well,
it's
it
456.
depends.
It's usually
You may
aggregate
have
with
to
change
aggregate
order.
it depending
It's
upon.
Yeah, it's usually, I mean, when they usually do change orders, they usually list them all and add them
Yeah.
together and net them
Okay,
out.
so it is aggregate.
John, I'm only asking because this thing
Because
comes
we
up,
did
then
a
you do the
resolution
change
already,
order.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we did that because, you know, it's a good thing to do.
Yeah. My suggestion would be that maybe on the next agenda, we have an item for a resolution.
But that might be their problem. They may not be able
Do
to
you
wait
have
till the
that
next
much time?
agenda.
Do you have 2 weeks?
You know, the contractor asked me to release, you know, the mechanicals to start signing off on the shop drawings, because we're not going through ACOM, but I could sign off individually on the north clarifier. They would have liked them both together, but I can do the north clarifier, which is, you know, we did that by, you know, putting off construction components that we didn't really think were necessary to do at this point in time, like the rotary presses and moving the gravity belt thickeners from one side of the building to the other. We stopped that kind of work to make money available to do the north primary clarifier. So I can release those tomorrow. That would allow them to order them. You know, then the other one I could do in a week or 2 weeks whenever we make a decision.
Well, if we have a meeting in 2 weeks, they want decisions before the 2 weeks is what you were asking,
That's
correct?
correct.
That's what they had asked for. But I think they'll be okay if we just release the north, knowing that, you know, we're going to probably release the south one. They just wanted to order them both at the same time. I think they actually gave us a better price on the south clarifier than we got on the north, based on, you know, doing two of them.
So,
It was like 20,000 or 15,000
so does that
less.
mean we should vote tonight?
Well, the
No, I
issue
think we
now
should
is,
vote. I think
you
we
have
should vote
100,000 to spare, and if you're comfortable that's enough spare, then you're all right to move forward. That's all.
But do we have to talk to the NGEIT, or we can vote contingent on that?
I think when the application was done originally, NJEIT, they're the ones that came up with the soft, you know, the plan was submitted with this much money and this cost. I just wanna make sure that they're okay with it, they're the ones that have to reimburse me.
So can
I
we-
get reimbursed, I don't care what he says.
Can we vote without their permission is all I'm asking?
Exactly.
So we can vote up contingent on their permission to do that?
So
I
you
can call
suggested
Bill
we do that
Mahaka and
tonight?
ask Bill.
Well, if that's what Wayne needs, and for us to
Yeah.
get that price, we don't have a
Yeah.
choice, right?
I mean, I think it's a good idea to get that
And then get it,
that
make
extra
it,
20
so it'd
grand.
be
But
better
does-
if we had a resolution tonight then. would
Commissioner
it
Ennis,
not,
do you,
Wayne?
you feel we should move ahead? It's your
Well-
department.
I don't know if we need a resolution, or I could just issue a change directive in the field once you're comfortable with, you
Which
know,
you can do.
rebuilding that south
As
primary.
long as it's done by resolution, if it's not the
It
official
has to
change
go
order.
resolution.
At least you have a vote that
Yeah.
the change order.
Maybe
Yeah,
we
I
could
think it's
wait-
better
we
to
could
have a
wait a week to
resolution.
go over everything.
Yeah, there has to be a resolution tonight
Yeah.
that it happened.
So I think we should have
That was
resolution
my
on.
question, Brock. Is that necessary?
I think it is, and, you know, maybe there's a savings if they can order them both at the same time.
That's
So
what they're
that's what I
thinking.
would be worried
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, I don't wanna lose.
Can the resolution be generic to allow them to do the 348 and not address change order number 2 at this time? because he has to work numbers to have a change order resolution. Can we do a resolution tonight for a change order to add just the clarifier for 348,000, whatever the odd number cents is?
Why don't
And
we
not
say
address
up to an amount?
Up to, all right, and then because you have change order number 2, which hasn't been done by resolution yet, but that's some pluses and minuses, and I don't think you want to do that quickly.
Mhm.
So we just do the 348 tonight.
Up to 348.
Up to 348?
Is that agreeable, Wayne? Is that,
You know, also I wanted to let you know, we still have a credit coming that they haven't calculated yet on PCO number 28, which is for HVAC and the ductwork, the odor control ductwork. By leaving the gravity belt thickener and the belt filter press in the same rooms they're in, we don't have to do any modifications to the odor control system. So, you know, there's another savings coming there. I don't know what that magnitude is, but, you know, there's some more monies coming back with that.
So if they're comfortable that there's enough cushion, which at 100,000 they seem to be, can we do just a change order resolution tonight for the 348,000 for the clarifier and deal with change order number 2 at the next meeting?
Separately. Yeah,
Can you do that, or does that tie your hands? I don't know what you're.
I don't think it ties my hands as long as Brock's okay with proceeding that way.
Okay.
Very good. Wayne, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
I know you've got your hands full. You probably need 4 more hands, but I know when you first came on board, we talked about a CIP, capital improvement, and I guess as we're approaching the end of the year, I just wanted to know, have you been able to put any thoughts together on, you know, some of the things that we discussed earlier on, as far as improving some of the issues that the city, as we all know, are long overdue, and for the most part, it's been primarily to save money and to save taxpayers from, you know, having to put out more money. However, it's my opinion that just like your own home, if you neglect it and neglect the maintenance that's required of it, it's going to cost you more in the long term than it would if you would periodically make the necessary improvements that are needed to maintain it and to keep it operable and to keep it up to par. So my question to you, sir, and again, I know that your hands are extremely full, but I think it would be advantageous to this city. I think it would be in the best interest of the taxpayers if we would put together a CIP, a capital improvement program, plan, so that we know ahead of time, rather than waiting for things to break and fall apart. And I don't want to go through all that because I went through it when we first came on, and I know that some of the work at the plant hasn't been corrected or modified in nearly 50 years. I think this day and age, I think that could be close to negligent, I'm going to be honest with you, because anything that runs 24 hours a day has got to be maintained. I think it's in the best interest of this city, let me go back and say it again, it's in the best interest of this city that we come up with a capital improvement program rather than waiting until things totally fall apart. And my fear is that at some point, whether the taxpayers want it or not, there's going to be a tax increase that's going to have to be almost mandated to cover some of the issues that we're experiencing and some of the things that I've seen. Is there a plan in place, sir?
Before you proceed with asking the engineer, what capital projects are you talking about?
We're talking primarily, Joe, about the infrastructure of this city. Some of the
Okay,
things
so what you have, and you had engineering, so you should realize that the sewer plant upgrade is a capital project that's been planned out for years. There is another phase. As far as roads go, there are a list of roads that we have. We occasionally adjust it due to damage that is done. That list is also available from engineering. If you look at the drainage system, there are plans for that. So,
okay, so where are the plans? That's all I'm asking.
I mean, if you
Joe.
want the
Difficult.
well, it's not difficult, and
Just a question I have as a taxpayer. I pay taxes here too.
I understand that. And if you call me, I'm more than happy to provide anybody with that information. But you're standing here saying like there's no plan at all.
No, I didn't say that. I asked the gentleman.
So I will get you that information.
Okay.
Okay.
So So we didn't say there wasn't a plan, Wayne. I simply asked, is there? So thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, one thing, Commissioners, we had our EPA inspection, and we had a report from EPA, and they asked us to address some of the infrastructure issues that we have on the sewer side, because that's where they were there. With our collection system, the infiltration into the system, because the mains are 100 years old. So we have to have a report out to them within 45 days. So that's coming up pretty quick. So some of those, kind of questions you're bringing up will be, answered in that report on how we plan the slip line, the Buck Street trunk main system. Ireland Avenue is a source of infiltration. We have to address those things. So
Okay.
we will address some of that in the EPA response. I'll make sure I copy the commission on that too.
Wayne, I thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners. and Thank you
Thank
for
you.
Wait, I have one
considering
more- I have one more question,
firefighter
I'm sorry.
improvement.
Uh,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, in light of some of the training problems we had earlier in the year, can you make this Trojan manual and names of the people trained available to Human
Yeah, I have,
Resources and the administrator?
I have the list of the personnel that were trained with me now, and I was going to have Sal forward that to Pam, so she has it for her
Thank you.
files. So. And we'll do the same for every component of the clarifiers and everything that we put online. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Brian?
All right, just an update. We actually did get a letter from DOT. They're opening it up for submission of applications for grants for the next funding year. So we're going to try to get, there's a roadway, there's bikeway, and there's a safe streets to transit grant that we can apply for. There's a transit village, but Millville's not considered a transit village, so we don't qualify for that. So we're going to work on getting applications together for that. They're due October 6th. So that's some good news that there's funding available. So, and as far as our road projects, 3rd Street, we had the core testing done. That was one of the things that was for closing it out. That's been complete. That came out good. Sometimes you get the results. You can assess penalties to the contractor if there's too much air voids in the asphalt, but we didn't. That wasn't so. So that's a good thing. And there was a few signs I think they had to reset, and we're pretty much ready to close that out. I think it was a couple meetings ago you approved the change order for that project. So that was pretty close to close out. In Vine Street, that project, they just have to put benches and some landscaping in front of the college. So that's pretty close to close out as well. We're still working on the 6th Street, putting plans together for that. They're almost complete. That's another DOT funded project. So we want to try to get that out shortly. Hopefully, within maybe by the end of the month we can have all that ready to go out for bid. Marshford Bikeway Trail, Phase 5. We met with DOT and the design consultant on that. That's the project from Sharp, Cooper, Schoolhouse out to the boat ramp, the bike lanes. The county engineering department was out there as well. We had an on-site meeting. We walked the project, and we're just addressing kind of the action items based on that meeting. They went in some traffic or accident reports. We're getting that to them. Just some of that base information to get that design process rolling. That's mainly the road projects. We met with the Parks Department, talking about some more projects, the rescue squad, fleet building, demolition. We're working on plans and specs for that. there was discussion about adding another demolition in there. I think it was 16 McNeil, incorporating that into the specs or into that project. So we're working on that to coordinate that. We're also coordinating with Parks on, I guess, there's a relocation the fields, the lighting for the landfill. They want to move them out to the lakeside. So we're working on that, as well as the Waltman Park basketball courts. We had done a project back in 2001 for that. One was an expansion of the one court in addition of another. So we're pulling those old plans and preparing.
And that's for resurfacing.
Yeah, the resurfacing of the courts. We just want to check to see, the rim heights, that type of thing, how the connections, how that's going to work. So those are other projects in the works, as you know. And also High Street, you'll see that on the agenda tonight, High Street Phase 2. We're looking to recommend award for that. South State, they actually got the Phase 1 contract, so maybe some economies of scale there. We're going to talk with them on their schedule. As far as the paving, they've completed the concrete work in the first phase. So we will.
So when's the paving?
That's what I want to see when they want to plan on paving that. I mean, Phase 1, in theory they could do Phase 1, just pave that, and then and then start Phase 2. If there's not as much concrete work in Phase 2, they may be able to finish that work and be able to mobilize once and pave once. I'm just hypothetically that may work. So.
Was the bid what you expected? Did it come in low or high? Or
Yeah, it was a little bit lower than ours. It was
7,000.
It was a 215,000. I think our estimate was 222,000. The grant funding on that one was 225. I think it's 225.
So the grant will pay. Okay, so we're in good shape then.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. So both projects came in low, so that was good. So if you had any other questions on any of the other
Yeah,
those
where we have with
projects.
easements on Marlin Terrace, we hear. Any response yet?
I have not seen anything more from them. I don't know if you've heard anything more, Barack, on the easements from the one owner.
There's a letter that went out that has not been responded to for the one holdout. And my suggestion is that I try to reconnect with those people to at least get an answer from them. Because basically that's what it requested. It requested them to give us an answer.
Well, how long are we gonna play around with this before we try to do something else?
I've got a call on take.
All right, so we'll worry about that.
Nice report, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good job.
Thank you.
And now I'll make my motion to go into closed session.
Well, do you want to make Marcy's?
Let's-
Can I had a couple
Oh,
questions.
okay,
Can
all
we,
right.
and then we can go?
That's
Is that all
fine.
right with you?
Yeah, if you want more, so you sorry with him.
Can I do mine?
Let me go with Dave first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi.
Oh, you wanna finish everybody? and then
I was
go into
thinking
closed
I was
session?
going next
Yes,
with
finish
you.
everybody,
Mike,
we'll
you
go
are
with
correct.
Commissioner Ennis, go
Okay,
ahead.
thank you.
I'm
Some safe progress.
I'm good. I had one question. Brock and I had talked about correcting the
laterals.
lateral issue, and I know you said you were waiting for some feedback from Wayne. Wayne, is there any possibility? And again, I hate to throw stuff at you because I know your hands are really full, but I think it's very important, that we move forward with making that modification to the lateral issue as it at this
Terms
time.
where the responsibility starts, and I did a kind of a bare bones ordinance amendment And I think you were cautioning whether we should accept it in that form, and
It
it needs
was-
to be fleshed out.
Did we do
It was
on
also the
this?
water department and the sewer department had an issue when we talked about it at an admin meeting. So I think that they wanted to meet and they were supposed to do a cost analysis on their end because
Yeah.
of manpower.
Right.
So,
Because if we're assuming responsibility for more of the mains,
correct,
then we ought to know what that's gonna cost.
correct. So I don't know if they
That was
ever
your
did,
concern,
so
so-
I think it was more on their end than Wayne's
So
end,
you're-
actually.
So you're waiting for the water and sewer department to do a cost analysis?
Yes.
Whose department's that?
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that, Lynn. I think that may be one of the meetings I had missed because as you all know, I work and I cannot attend some of the work sessions, and I'm just stating that because I don't want it to appear that I'm just not showing up or not interested. It's very difficult for me to attend these work sessions. So some of the information from time to time I do miss. However, we're working on that to improve communication, but I do think it's in the best interest of the taxpayer that we move forward with a program to improve the current policy that we have. I don't think it's an advantage at all to, in considering neighboring cities, no one's really doing what we do, imposing that debt on to the homeowner. I think that's something that we need to correct. So if, whatever it takes to get us there, I guess we have to set up a meeting with water and sewer and do a cost analysis and whatever it takes to happen, make it happen, Brock. I guess we need to move on.
Should we wait until commissioners, would it be better to wait until the Phase 2 project is done? Because I think sewer's got their hands full with that. And then address that issue?
I mean, it'd be nice to wait, but, you know, I think it's important to move forward on accepting ownership of the services that are within the city right away. So a lot of times it places contractors in a position where they're trying to, you know, do something economical for a homeowner to not bankrupt them, but sometimes it may not be the right way to proceed. They may tie into an old piece of terracotta pipe at a higher elevation when there's potentially another issue down deeper that goes unaddressed. And the city's, you know, in a better position to make sure that, you know, we do the work appropriately. And those costs can escalate, because one service could be 3 feet deep and another one could be 13 feet deep. That extra 10 foot of depth could cost $20,000 to a homeowner. They're not in a position, a lot of times, to, you know, pay for that.
And I think that we had an instance where somebody, a homeowner, installed a pump station and a lot of pipe. And that was something, I think, that was within the city's right-of-way, if I'm not mistaken. And that may be something the city should be making decisions about rather than a homeowner.
And I know, just from experience, the short time I've been here, that, you know, a homeowner might be experiencing a problem. They don't say anything about it, because they know they can't fix it, they can't afford it.
Okay, so we'll try to coordinate a meeting. I believe I talked to Regina and Brock and whomever, coordinate a meeting and get the right people at the table, set it up. And hopefully at the next commission meeting, we'll bring back something more tangible that we can move on and not have this linger no longer than what is necessary. That's probably what we, Brock, you.
Right. And my question is, do you have time now to address that issue? That was my concern.
Not a lot of time on that.
Because we kind of need their input. That's the only reason I suggested that.
Right. Right, that's what he had told me, was that he.
Wayne, do you think
basically-
this staff is going to be able to come up with a cost analysis? Because I think it's pretty hypothetical. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Right now, our hands are full starting up with the new homeless plan.
Well, what's wrong with the ordinance the way that it's drafted? I think the way that the draft ordinance is, not the one that's on the books, but the one that I drafted, the proposed ordinance, doesn't that make the city responsible from the curb cut to the street, and then makes the homeowner responsible from the curb cut to the
Wasn't there an issue with the clean-out valve or something, though?
The issue is, you know, how do we establish a policy to determine how to proceed in the field if there's clean out at the right of way.
Well, can't we put that in the ordinance,
I think we
take
may
the
have,
ordinance and put a provision in there that makes an affirmative obligation on people to have a clean out?
I think we
But-
may have added that in, I'll have to go back and look
Yeah.
again.
But then
maybe
you
we
would be
could pass that.
forcing the homeowners to put cleanouts in then, correct?
But it's important that they have those because.
No, I know it's
yeah.
important, but I'm just saying then you're forcing them to put a cleanout in.
Because when we
Is
had
the
the-
But I don't know if
because
it's
when the
enfor-
gas,
Is the enforcement when there's a problem, or is the enforcement, they're gonna come along and check
How you
everything?
gonna enforce that?
You know?
Yeah, I can tell
That's
you,
the problem, how you
Usually
gonna
the problem
enforce
is
it?
if you have a problem, the sewer utility won't be able to get into it until you put a clean out in.
That's probably
And
what
if you
you
put a
need
clean
to
out
do.
in and you find out that the problem is the sewer utilities, they were reimbursing a certain percent towards the clean out. But if it was the problem with the homeowners, the homeowner had to pay, for the clean out.
correct.
when we had the gas company laying the new gas lines on High Street, weren't there problems when they were accidentally rupturing some of those sewer lines, and if
Right.
people didn't have a clean out, then they were getting sewage in their basement
Right, it was a lot of,
because they didn't have a clean out.
a large project like that, there's always a lot of issues,
Well, I think it's something that you have to, eventually, you have to correct it, because it doesn't sound like it's gonna get any easier.
No,
Wayne, I suggest, I don't know if you have an hour, but maybe an hour with the department head, you, Brock, look at the draft ordinance and see if there's any issue or whether it can move forward.
And even if it's not perfect, maybe we can, and I don't know, maybe you don't make it I guess you have to figure out when and how somebody's responsible for a clean out, or whether we're gonna make that an obligation or not make it one.
I know we did it at my parents' house about a year ago, and that was a suggestion of the gentleman that came and fixed the pipe, and we did install a clean out, just to make it, like you said, easier for the homeowner.
Yeah, benefits the homeowner.
Exactly,
It does.
and that's the reason why we did it, so.
Mike, do you remember what it costs? Like, you have any idea?
I can find out, I don't remember.
It's like $300 or $400, isn't it? It's not thousands. It's like
Huh?
$300 or $400. It's
Yeah, I
not
don't think it was in the
right?
thousands, you're right, but I don't remember
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I didn't have one, and I got sewage in my basement. It was a big mess.
Wow. All right, so Regina, we'll
I'll schedule
set
something,
up
okay.
this, please. All right, thank you, Mayor, that's all. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Commissioner Perry.
Yes. I didn't understand, the ordinance about changing the zoning alternates, I thought that when we had talked about it, we were changing that just to be 2, but you
No,
wrote
no,
it
no,
to
well,
have
the
4.
Well, the problem is that if you read that ordinance, it says there's 4 alternates to the zoning board of adjustment. But then if you read the introductory section, and I think it just got missed.
But
It
do we
says
need
2.
4, I guess? Can't we just cut it back to 2?
Well, you need to amend the ordinance one way or another. You either gotta make it 4 or 2.
Right, because I thought what we were going to do was change it to 2, and then when I read this, it was to 4. I don't know if we need 4 alternates.
Is it better to have 4?
I don't think so, because then the alternates think they don't have to come, and I don't know, it just adds more confusion. Everybody's good on the board now, they come, so I think the
So
attendance
why do
is
we
up.
need an ordinate?
Yeah, I mean, you need an alternate, if
There's-
somebody's
because the
sick or out of
ordinance
town or something.
has a mistake in it. There's a clerical error.
But
So it needs
I
to
don't-
be fixed one way or
I
another.
don't-
Either it needs to be 2 or 4. Now, if you wanna make it 2, then I have to go back to the drawing board.
Because
and
the
revise
only
the
thing,
ordinance.
in my mind, if you need 4 alternates, then there's something wrong with the board. The 4
Absolutely.
people aren't coming all
I
the
agree.
time. So I don't know if that's
Totally agree.
necessary, and I thought, Jeannie, when we had talked about it, we were gonna put it at 2. That was,
And then after that, I spoke with Brock, and he said in 2011, it was amended from 2 to 4.
Yeah.
So that was the most.
But
I
they
know
made a
that-
whoever did it made a
And
mistake.
it
and-
wasn't.
I know when we came in office, the attendance was poor on both the planning and the zoning board, and they weren't enforcing the attendance policy. So since we've enforced that and there's new members on the board, they've all been coming, so I think the attendance is
Well,
up,
the-
and
The reason you can have 4 alternates on the Board of Adjustment is because certain applications heard by the Board of Adjustment require 5 affirmative votes.
correct.
So that's why, if there is an attendance issue, there are other people you can bring in, because if you sit through Board of Adjustment meetings and someone needs a use variance, if they're only, for example, suppose there are 5 members, just 5, most attorneys are gonna say, I want this postponed because I need to get a perfect 5-0 vote. I'd rather have 7 people here, so then I can, if I have a 5-2 vote, I can still get approved. And so it tends to cause these applications to be postponed. That's probably why they did that in
Well,
2011.
that's what, in the past, it was a problem. We were going to the meetings, there'd be 4 people there. But I believe the attendance is good now, so I don't know.
I mean, I can do
But
it
really,
either
does
way.
it hurt anything leaving 4?
We gotta find more people.
Yeah,
But
We
it
had
needs
trouble
to be
filling the
fixed
board.
one way or another, because Jeannie's the one that found the typo.
Well, and it's on tonight to remain as 4.
Right.
From the way it was from
Okay.
2011 when
Right.
it was amended, so if you want it changed to it.
No, that's fine. I just didn't understand because what our discussion was, and then when I read it, I was like, wait a second, this is completely backwards of what I thought was going
It's
on.
Jeannie's fault. She's the one that found the mistake.
Okay.
Thank you.
I also wanted to know that the Mulberry Street property donation, that's been floating around now for a month or so. So I didn't know,
Thank you.
when I inquired about it, they said they need a property search, so I guess Brock, you would take care of
I
that?
guess maybe that's my fault. if that
No, I don't know if
wasn't done.
anybody really asked that. What happens, I'm finding with these emails, is they go around in this gigantic circle until somebody says, do it. It doesn't get done, it just floats. So, just make sure it gets done. Because this gentleman's out there waiting and nobody's answering him.
Mulberry Street property donation.
600 and something block. It was, fire was there, so I believe it's just an empty lot. And then Wheaton Arts, I guess, is contacted by Wheaton Arts for that redevelopment project to go through. We have to change the mortgage, so does their attorney do that?
Their attorney is willing to do the legal documents that have to be done.
You talked to him?
So, well, no, that's what the email said.
Okay.
From them. They said that their attorney will do it. There's 2 things they need to do. One, they're gonna prepare a discharge of our mortgage against that property, which is what they need. And then they're gonna give us a mortgage on another property on Coombs Road, which they use, I guess, as a studio. So their attorney's gonna draft those documents. Once they're drafted, then I can prepare a resolution.
So
We
they
can
have to
approve
do that first
Yeah.
before we do the
Yeah.
resolution?
Yeah.
All right, so I can email her back to
Just
get
tell her,
that.
go ahead, have your attorney prepare the discharge and the new mortgage.
Because the project out in that area can't go through unless they discharge the mortgage. And the mortgage is left over from when the city did a roof for Wheaton Arts. They've been very good about making payments on the loan. I'm not really worried about them not paying us, so I don't think that'll be a problem. And then the court visitation meeting on Friday are 2 commissioners going to attend? I just wanted to make sure, Commissioner Davis, are you going to that?
I'll be here.
I didn't realize we were welcome to that.
The way the letter reads, you're supposed to contact them prior. I don't
Right.
know if you're allowed to attend.
Right, that's
The
the
letter
impression
said to
I got.
contact them.
Well, I was told I could attend. I'll
Okay.
make sure.
Well, I
I'll see
guess if you
can-
call and say, could I
Yeah.
attend, you know.
Yeah,
that's
they're
it.
not gonna stop us, but I'll double check. And I'll let you know.
But I guess if you're allowed, he should be allowed.
Yeah, I'm gonna double check them, just to make sure, because we'll both show up, they'll kick us both out. I'm
Oh.
just gonna make sure they're on point with everything, that's all.
Okay, and then I get, the resolution for the bank signatures, that's been floating around now for probably, 3 months? So I've got a whole pile of emails that aren't getting done, and I kind of like
Is
to
that the
get them off my
electronic
list.
signature one she's talking about?
So, yeah, Marcy
the
doesn't,
facsimile.
Marcy does still feel comfortable with
Well,
some
here's-
aspects of it, so I'm not sure what we can change. You had spoken to the gentleman.
All right, I understand the bank wants that, but why would we relieve the bank of any liability?
Well, because then the bank can say, then fine, then you have to sign all of those checks.
Well, then fine, we
As
get
long as
another
you don't mind
bank,
signing
but
all the-
Well, you
what's
can
gonna
zero
happen
in.
if we relieve the bank of all the liability and somehow, some way,
Yeah.
and you know our computer system was compromised before, somebody gets a hold of that electronic signature somehow, puts it on something, somebody else gets paid $100,000,
Yeah.
and the bank doesn't have any liability with taking the signature from the wrong person.
That's right, then you have to sign all the checks then. In some towns, that's what they do. West Cape
All right,
May,
Mike, start
the
exercising.
commissioners sign
I
every
signed
single
manual
check.
signature at one place. yeah.
So no more stamps.
Well, we had 2 stamps and 1 signature.
Not all banks do this, correct? You called around?
Well, I was at the county for 7 years, and we had the same thing, no one ever questioned it. I've been here 5 years, this is the first time. I haven't changed anything
There
since
are,
I've been here, and
Ed
no other
Galecki,
bank ever
Ed
questioned
Galecki came to my office, and they have something like 70 municipal clients, and I think all but 4 have adopted that authorization.
But I looked, and I could not find a sample resolution that they adopted, so.
Well, there's a form they provided us, and I think,
The form I don't have a problem with, but adopting a resolution.
well, I mean, I can draft the resolution
Can we-
itself. I
can
mean,
we-
if you want me to do it.
But what
it's
didn't,
okay.
Marcy, what didn't you like? You said you didn't mind one thing, but you minded the other thing. Was it just the responsibility, or?
Right, that's the only part. I don't mind saying in there, allowing them to accept it. We take the responsibility that we're using an electronic signature. But I didn't like the fact that I'm not at the bank cashing the check, making sure that it's a proper check. That is their responsibility, that's not mine.
But they can
I
say,
have to monitor what they're doing.
but they can say, we're not cashing this check. This check doesn't have a real signature on it. I mean,
Well, they can also say, we're cashing this check, it's written for $1 million or somebody we don't know, and they don't check on it, and they do it, and then we're out $1 million.
I mean, it's not like an electronic signature on a personal check. These are payroll checks, city checks. I mean, there's numbers attached to them. I've just never heard of my taking the responsibility from the bank that they're cashing a check that's not authorized. That has an unauthorized signature.
Could you find out what, like, I don't know who you have connections where, what other banks are using it if they're requiring this too?
I know, I called them.
They're not.
well,
They're not
why don't we
requiring
talk-
what?
For the city to pass a resolution, that they're not, that we're taking the liability away from the bank, and it's
Okay.
our responsibility that a proper signature is being used when they're cashing a check.
Why don't I do this? Why don't I call Ed Galecka back and have Ed provide me with a sample resolution that goes along with that authorization, and to give us a list of other towns that have adopted that.
How about could we get the resolutions from the other towns, rather than a sample resolution that the bank prepares?
That's what I tried to do. I did
You
it
tried to get
online.
sample, you
Most
tried to get
If I get a list-
resolutions from other things.
municipalities have online agendas.
If I get a list of his towns, then maybe then we could contact one of the
For
towns.
example, I think he does Vineland, and I looked at Vineland, and what they do is in their cash management plan, they just address that they use electronic signatures. I don't mind doing that. I don't mind even, I think at the beginning of 2017, we adopted a resolution as to who the signatory people are, and it's the mayor, the director of revenue and finance, and then myself. We could put somewhere on there that we're using we're using electronic signatures. I don't mind that, but his resolution specifically addresses that the bank has no liability if a check is cashed with unauthorized signature.
Yeah, it is something they're looking to do, because I know I got a call from the solicitor Bridgeton, and apparently they do the same thing we do. They also bank with the same bank, and the bank is asking them to pass a similar resolution to sign an
I mean, I get it from the bank's point of view, it's a good idea, but maybe we need to look at another bank.
If we had a manual signature, would they continue the live?
He has no problem. If we
I was
sign
gonna
manually,
suggest if you want me, because I'm the third
Yeah.
signer, as an employee that's here all the time, I don't mind being the third person that actually signs the checks. I mean, I'll just make it part of my responsibility. But I just
Well,
can't
you're-
see putting that statement on a resolution that you have no liability to the bank. I think that's putting us in danger, that's my opinion.
I think you're right.
So you're gonna get the town, and you're gonna check what resolution the
Most
town.
of
I'll
the
get a
towns,
list of
most of
towns.
the
And then
towns
the
added
worst
a
comes to
manual
worst,
signature.
then we can decide
Did
if
the towns
we
add a
want to do
manual
business
signature, or
with
did
the
they
bank.
just relieve
Still
them of
working my arm out.
responsibility?
According to Ed, they've agreed to the authorization.
According to what, Ron?
Ed has said that the other towns have signed off on
Well,
this.
they might have signed off on that paper that he sent
Yeah.
us, but I didn't see any adopted resolution by the town, and he wanted us to attach a resolution.
Resolution. They're just doing it, is what you're saying it.
He signed kind
They're
of
not
like a
giving up the
waiver.
liability part.
Right.
Liability, yeah.
But in that piece of paper, does it say about the liability?
Yeah, it's specific,
And they sign that.
yeah.
So how can you do that without a resolution?
I don't think you
That's why
can.
I didn't want to sign it.
We want a resolution.
Well, I'll contact
But if
Mitch.
you
She's
get
saying
one
the
manual-
cities didn't do the resolution, so
Well,
that,
that's, the bank doesn't care about the resolution.
Yeah.
Well, apparently.
It got signatures.
If you go online and do a search, that's municipalities.
okay.
Oh,
But then is that piece of paper binding if there's no resolution to back it up?
I would want to say no, because, it's, depends whether the person had.
Person's an
authority.
authorized signature for the bank. Your CFO signed it.
So then it would be authorized. So
The
That'd be-
easiest thing to do is to just sign it.
I do a
Let me call
manual
Ed.
signature on the
Let me
check.
get information, yeah.
Like I said, I don't mind signing all the checks if I have to. I would do it.
Her signature will become MS though.
Anything else, Commissioner?
Yes, I'm sorry. I got, Marcy, I didn't know what to do with this personal action form. It's for an employee, but the money's not budgeted, so how can I sign this?
Well.
I mean, that's a
the
problem.
position is budgeted, but they're
Not at that
trying-
salary.
Not at the salary that.
So how can you
that's why
sign
there's
it?
a notation on it.
So how can you sign it?
Because there is a budgeted position, I just can only certify that I have 24,000.
So we can't pay them then?
After the 24,500, then they don't get paid.
That's why I put it on there.
Is it my signature?
Well, I am supposed to sign it next, but it's your employee.
What are you saying?
That's the second one. I signed the other one. The other one was $500. That wasn't budgeted either. So that's the second
Right,
one,
but
that there's not money, I know you're using another salary of something,
The
but,
500 I had money for, but that particular department has a very specific amount of money.
so there's no money for that.
I didn't have money.
So I mean, I can't sign that then.
I mean, my job though is
So-
not to tell a
so this-
commissioner they can't hire someone. My job is to say whether the money is available.
Well, if the money's not available, how can you hire someone?
They can talk to the person and get them down to the 24,500, which is what we have in the budget.
But then,
Did you contact the administrator of that department and tell her what the problem is?
I contacted personnel. I thought
Okay.
they were going to research it. I don't know if she did or not.
they said when I asked
Did per-
today, when I was about signing it, they said they already told the person that's what they were hired at. But how can you tell a
Hire
person
them.
what you're hired at if the personnel action form isn't filled out?
Correct,
So- Right?
I agree.
Okay. So, I mean, the protocol is,
The protocol is you don't hire someone until all the signatures.
So send it back.
papers.
okay,
Otherwise,
so I'm not going to sign it
Send
then.
it back.
Okay, so there you go. Sure.
Nice one, know about it.
I'm sorry, I found out at 4 o'clock, so I apologize, but when I questioned about it, she said the person is already under the assumption they're
Okay.
getting that salary.
So now we have to tell them they're not.
Well, they have to tell them. They have.
I don't know. And then the only other one which is on here is about towing fees. I guess an email had been sent out. Jeannie was contacted about towing fees. So I guess one issue was figured out.
Yeah, Brock had resolved the issue with regard to the time they're required to hold on to vehicles. The only other issue was these towing companies have to reach out to various insurance companies to get their money back, their fees, and our ordinance isn't specific, and that was her complaint. So she just wants to know if we can specify our ordinance for something like specifically winching was her big thing. That's where she's having a hard time recapturing that money, and it does create an issue when a car flips over and there's an additional fee for her, and she has to go after that with the insurance company, and they fight her because it's not in our ordinance.
Let me ask you a question. What happens when there's no insurance on the car?
Oh, I don't know
Just
what
came on
happens
again.
I'm just saying.
I mean, which
she
could
just-
happen,
Do we
right?
know
Yeah,
how many
but-
times this has actually happened in the last however since?
I don't know. She's called a couple times and spoke with Wendy and brought it up, and then
Lonnie,
you know,
how
she-
many total incidents that this has happened like this?
I don't have those numbers. I received a complaint and I forwarded it
Right.
to
I get that.
everybody, and
I
haven't
think we
gotten
need
a
to know
response.
that, because if we do this,
Well-
we're gonna have to have money to do it.
You know, the other thing
can
is,
ask her.
if for better or worse, if you want to be on that list, I mean, you're getting some business, and you may have to absorb some of those things.
So then we're just, all right. So it's just, I mean, we can tell her the choice is to do nothing. I
I
just
mean,
wanted
you don't
to
have to
be.
be on the,
That's-
I mean, if you don't think it's fair, then.
I
you
just
don't
need to
get
give her
on
a
it. It's not-
response. I told her I would bring it up.
Right.
Exactly.
So that's all, that was the purpose, of
That makes-
just to give her a
that makes sense.
response.
Yeah,
That's
if you
all.
don't think it's fair, then
Don't get on the
Don't
list.
get it.
She the only one that complained?
She's the only one that complained.
So there's other towing companies?
there are. Hmm.
Okay, and
we don't-
plenty of
So
them.
we're just okay.
We
So
don't need their service anymore.
well, let's just say.
Well, I don't know if we should say it that way.
The consensus is just to not make any changes to the ordinance.
At
That's
this
fine.
time.
At this time.
Diplomatic,
Okay.
right?
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, you know,
Thanks, Gene.
Progress.
thank you. In regards to the SPCA, I thought you were going to ask me that,
I was,
and you didn't.
no, I didn't.
I'm surprised. I do have an answer. I talked to Sherry. Am I saying that her name right? Sherry, from the second floor. One thing we discussed, and I think Marcy was there at that meeting with the SPCA, Regina, and Sherry was there, myself, and in the police department, we had our ACO and one representative from the SPCA. The only one thing, if you guys can remember, is that the SPCA, whenever an animal is taken to the vet, the money goes, or the discount looks like it's going to the SPCA, and we're not reaping the benefits from that. So the one change that we're asking for, Brock, is that we deal directly with the vets so that we can communicate, because there were some savings there that we were getting that we were missing.
And I think the other thing was in the court about billing the owner versus billing the city was another issue.
That was, we talked about that, and that was something that they recommended they would take care of.
So they're gonna start billing the
Yes,
owner?
yes,
Okay, because
Yes.
that apparently was a bit of money.
right. With that,
Thank
I
you,
have
Mayor.
nothing else. Can we have a motion to go into closed sessions?
Move to go into closed session.
Second.
Any comments? All right.
Let me take a roll.
Roll call.
Commissioner Ennis?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Commissioner Compary?
Yes.
Commissioner Sui?
Yes.
And Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
And this is going to be to discuss, you have to put that on the record.
Employee, client
So-
privilege.
Attorney-client privilege.
By the way, we have one more item of new
Attorney-client
business
Attorney-client privilege,
that
okay.
when we come back, we have to address.
Commissioner Hurst, I don't think you got a copy of that.
Thank you, sir.
The Trojan,